Hi everyone, welcome back. My name is Patricia and I teach English as a foreign language. Last week, we talked about the 4 most common mistakes that I see English students making. Today, I want to share a story with you about how I discovered the best way to learn a language. About 10 years ago, my cousin was pregnant. It was really exciting. I couldn't wait for the baby to be born. And finally, the day arrived. She sent me a picture, and he was so cute. He had chubby little cheeks, and his eyes were barely open. It was love at first sight. And then, my cousin sent me a text. By the way, he's deaf. Deaf? I was shocked. Deaf means he can't hear anything. I didn't know any deaf people, and there definitely weren't any deaf people in my family. The only thing I did know about deaf people is that they usually use sign language. That's a language where you use your hands and your face to communicate with people. Since deaf people can't hear, it doesn't really make sense to talk. So, my family is a very big family. When we have weddings, birthday parties, and other get-togethers, there can be 100 people there, sometimes more. And I started to think about this little boy showing up to these big family get-togethers and not being able to communicate with anyone because we didn't know sign language. I started to feel a little depressed about that. I didn't want that for my little cousin. I wanted him to know his cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents, just like I did. So I decided then that it was going to be really important for me to learn sign language. Now, once I had that idea in my head, I was excited. And what's the first thing that I did? I went online and I found websites and YouTube videos that looked like they could teach me sign language to help me become fluent. I started studying those websites and YouTube videos, and I learned lots of words. But after a few months, I started to realize something. I knew a lot of words in sign language, and I could even make some sentences. But I couldn't really tell a story. And having a conversation, I was still scared of that. So I started to feel a little frustrated. I had spent a lot of time studying online, and it wasn't getting me where I wanted to go. So then I thought, maybe I need a class. Maybe I need a teacher. And I started to look for that. It just so happens that there's a school for the deaf right near my house, and they give classes. This is perfect, I thought. This is what's going to help me to become fluent. I went to that school for the deaf, and I took level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4. And guess what? After all those classes, I still wasn't fluent. Now, the teachers I had were awesome. They were all deaf, and they had learned sign language when they were babies, so they were really good at it. Having a model like that had really helped me to learn more words, and I started to improve my grammar as well. But I still couldn't really tell a story, and having a conversation with a native speaker of sign language, I still wasn't ready for that. And then I got frustrated again. I had spent a lot of time in these classes, and I had paid good money for them. But when we had class, after a little bit of conversation, how are you? How was your weekend? Out came the textbook. Grammar lesson number 1. Grammar lesson number 2. Here's a vocabulary list. Go memorize that. Now, I'm the kind of student that every teacher wants to have in their class. If you tell me to study something, I will study it. If you tell me to memorize something, I will memorize it. But after all that studying and memorizing, I still didn't get where I wanted to go. And then I got really frustrated. I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong. I started to think, maybe I'm just too old for this. Or maybe I'm just not good at languages. Well, I almost gave up, but I couldn't stop thinking about my cousin. So I decided to look around one more time for a class, maybe something that was a little bit different, that would work better for me. And you know what? I found something really interesting. 4 hours away, all the way in Boston, there was a sign language immersion program. Immersion means surrounded. The language is all around you. It was a 5-day program, and all day long, you use sign language, and people use sign language to talk to you. Now that sounded really interesting to me. I had never been around that much sign language before, and I thought, maybe it's worth a try. So I applied to the program, and the first thing they asked me to do was take a test. I couldn't believe it. I was already not that confident in my skills, and now they wanted me to take a test? Well, let me tell you, that test was hard. And I started to think, maybe I'm not even ready for this program. Maybe I need to learn a little bit more before I go to an immersion program. But, like I said, I was out of options. The School for the Deaf didn't have any more classes for me to take, and there was nowhere else for me to go. So I decided to just take the test, do the best that I could, which was not very good, by the way, and then I went to the program. Now that program changed my whole perspective on learning a language. All of our teachers were deaf. They had learned sign language as babies, so of course they were masters at the language. But here's the interesting thing. Our teachers were with us all day long. We had morning classes, then lunch with our teachers. We had afternoon classes, and then dinner with our teachers. Sometimes we had workshops after dinner with our teachers. We were exposed to so much sign language. Here's the other interesting thing about that immersion program. When I walked into our first class on Monday morning, I looked around and I didn't see any textbooks, not on the teacher's desk and not on our desks. I asked the teacher, "Where's our book?" She said, "There's no book." "Oh, okay. Well, what are we going to do?" Well, that day, our assignment was to interview one of our classmates. Basically, have a conversation, and then tell the rest of the class about that conversation. Well, that was new. I had never been in a class where I had to use the language so much. That combination of being surrounded by the language and being forced to use it myself all the time helped me to improve so much. In 5 days, it's incredible how my skills improved. I could tell stories by the end of the week because we practiced that in every class. I could have conversations because we practiced that in every class. I wasn't perfect, but I could definitely have conversations and talk to native speakers. And that was really exciting for me. On my way home, I started to think about how this program was designed and what it was really trying to do. And then it dawned on me. They were trying to create the same experience that we all had as babies. We're surrounded by our native language. Everyone around us speaks that language, and we have to speak back in that language. We don't have a choice. And that is the best way to learn a language. Once I realized the power of surrounding myself with a language and using it often, there was no stopping me. I've been improving my sign language ever since, and I have that immersion program to thank. Now, I teach English as a foreign language, and all of those things that I learned as a student of sign language, I use to help my students in English, because most classes are going to use a book. It's the common thing to do. A lot of people just haven't experienced an immersion program. They don't understand the power that it has, like I do, because I participated in it. That's why in my classes, the lessons are always conversation-based, and I help every student to come up with a study plan that immerses them in English, even on the days when we don't have class. Why? Because I want you guys to get where you want to go as quickly as possible. I hope you guys have enjoyed this story, and some of you might have questions. That's okay. Just put them in the comments and I'll answer for you. Remember, if you're looking for live online English as a foreign language classes, you can always visit our website, ivyleagueenglish.com. You can also find us on Facebook and, of course, right here on YouTube. You can subscribe to our channel and make sure to turn on the notifications so that you know when our new videos come out. I'll see you guys soon.